I've had a very profound realization, something that has shaken me to my core, and I would really appreciate if you would just support me, be with me in this challenging time, because I'm having, honestly, a hard time kind of reconciling it, because it's a thing that I didn't think was true about myself, and now I'm realizing it's a part of who I am, and I don't think I can change that. I just think I just wasn't prepared to accept this about myself, but I think Beast is my favorite X-Man. Hey, what's up? My name is John Bajor. I'm an artist and a film enthusiast, and you were wrong about the X-Men. If you're exactly like me, I guess what I'm saying is that I was wrong about the X-Men movies from day one. So I have had a chance because Deadpool is coming out. We all know about it. I'm very excited about it. I'm sure you're very excited about it. Or you don't like fun, in which case, hey, I respect you. But if you're like me and you're excited about Deadpool and Wolverine, you're probably thinking, I should rewatch all the Fox X-Men movies. I really oughta. Why not, right? They're X-Men. They're going to lead up to this. They'll probably show up, quite a few of them. We already know of some of them that are showing up. I kind of wish they would stop telling us who's showing up. Stop it. Don't release more trailers. I don't want to know. The point that I'm making is that I have rewatched all of the X-Men movies, and it has been one of the most jarring experiences of my life, because as a kid, X-Men was everything to me. My sister Jamie and I, we watched through the original trilogy in one night. We just powered through them, and by the end of it, we couldn't remember what had happened in the first one. Our brains were melted. We were babies. From that day on, the X-Men movies were so intrinsically linked to my childhood that I got one of those big old plastic gloves with the Wolverine claws that would slash around and make sounds. And in my mind, these were the greatest movies that have ever been made. Like, they were not just the greatest comic book movies, but the greatest films. Like Spider-Man, and then right under it, every X-Men movie ever made. And like probably 10 years passed, and I hadn't seen almost any of them. And now I have. And for anybody I insulted for not liking the X-Men movies, I do want to apologize, because while I still enjoyed them, I have noticed some things that I was overlooking, I think is a nice word for that. I'm going to get so much hate for this because there are so many people that still really love the X-Men movies. And again, I can't stress this enough. I enjoyed watching through them. I really did. But not all of them are good. In fact, I would say the hit rate for X-Men movies being good all the way through is substantially lower than I thought it was. For instance, X-Men 1, I understand that was a movie of its time. That is one of the first comic book movies that led the genre. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is great in it. Patrick Stewart's Professor Xavier, wonderful. Ian McKellen as Magneto, great. And that's it. Like, that's the only good parts. Again, if you watch it from where it was, it's great. I'm sure it allowed superhero movies to become something that were important and something that people watched. But watching it now, after seeing a lot of the MCU and a lot of even some of the DC movies, like, it just isn't a great movie. And the thing that I think is the worst about that original trilogy is it almost systematically forgets what each character is supposed to be and what their character is. Like, Rogue is nothing in those movies. Iceman is just a guy. Everyone in those movies, outside of Wolverine, Beast for sure, Xavier, Magneto, everyone else is just not even close to their character. And that's the thing that makes the X-Men so interesting, is they're varied, wild, different characters. Not everybody has to be frosted tips and cool jeans. Like, some people can just be weirdos, little freaks. That's something that I think X-Men 97 has been doing a wonderful job. I started watching it, by the way. That is something that show is doing a tremendous job of, is just making everybody a little weirdo, just a full-blown freak. Everybody's got their own thing going. It's clear that these are different people from different backgrounds all coming together and forming a team. And that is what's so interesting about the X-Men. They're not the Fantastic Four. They're not a family that have been bonded together. They are random people brought together and forced to become family. That's interesting to me. Also, the writing is bad. The writing in that movie is bad. That said, X2 is a huge increase in quality. It does a lot better. It still pretty much fundamentally misses the character arcs of everyone. I think it does a really awful job adapting Nightcrawler. Kurt is nothing. He's nothing. He's just a sad little guy. And at least they made him a freak. I appreciate that. Lady Deathstrike, sure. Also, Jean having to get out of the plane to then lift the plane. Don't think you had to do that. I think you could have stayed in the plane, but they had to kill her because they had to get to Dark Phoenix. That does bring us to the third movie, because that is, I will say I didn't love the third movie as a kid, and I stand by that. I do think my opinion has fundamentally switched, though, so it's been an interesting journey, because I used to think that the Dark Phoenix stuff was the interesting part of that movie, and the Cure stuff was the boring part of that movie. And I could not have been more wrong. The political side of the Cure is super interesting, and something that I really wish that they had just made the movie. And then the Dark Phoenix stuff is nothing, and why are we even doing that? Like, why is that in this movie? It makes no sense. It doesn't fit with the movie. It also is, again, a horrible adaptation of a character. That whole section is bad across the board. They kill Charles in the weirdest, most anticlimactic way at the weirdest part of the movie. Also, I cannot get behind the Juggernaut in that movie. I understand that they were trying to go for a more grounded, it fits this version of the X-Men, but he looks so dumb in that big ol' suit. It is ridiculous. Just make him out of CGI like Colossus, like, or don't have him. Or if you can't do it, don't have him. Anyway, after that jarring experience, I decided, you know what? I'm going to treat myself and skip X-Men Origins Wolverine. Great call. Never regretted that for a second. However, I did go on ahead and watch The Wolverine after that, because I thought, that's a good one. That's one of the good ones. He goes to Japan. There's a cool train fight sequence. And that was all I remembered about the movie. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other movie outside of Japan and the train sequence. Most notably, The Silver Samurai, who is a big old robot and means nothing, and is just the worst looking CGI you've ever seen in your life. Additionally, this is a movie about Wolverine, right? This is supposed to be his, well, it's supposed to be his second movie, but it's supposed to be his first good movie. And honestly, I don't think they did a really good job giving him a character arc. I think him being sad for a movie that he's lived too long is fine, but then that kind of feels like something that they should tackle in something like Logan, which is a great movie. But honestly, I think the biggest problem with the Wolverine is that I have now seen Logan. And if the only Wolverine movie I had before that was X-Men Origins Wolverine, then yeah, the Wolverine is a huge upgrade. Huge upgrade. But now that I know that they are allowed to make a good Wolverine movie, this is not that. Just powering through, the first X-Men movie I watched was First Class, which was an interesting introduction to the X-Men, because I had no idea why this guy was putting on the dumbest helmet I've ever seen, but I assumed it was for a reason. And I guess it is. That's an alright movie. I will say, that was a movie that it got me back in its good graces. I think it's fun. I like the time. I think the setting is interesting. The characters are better. They're more interesting. They're solid. I feel like they gave Havoc something, which is cool. I like Havoc. It's a good time. I like it. Then Days of Future Past is easily the best X-Men movie. Yeah, it's the best X-Men movie. I actually don't have anything interesting to say about that, because it's easily the best. Although, I will say, we were watching it, and my wife so astutely pointed out that Magneto picked up a baseball stadium for no reason. Maybe to keep, like, the army out? But, like, I don't know if you've ever been to a stadium, but they don't generally keep people out. That's kind of their whole thing, is letting people in. But otherwise, really solid movie. It does kind of lose itself in the third act a little bit, but, I mean, what X-Men movie doesn't? After that is the saddest thing in my world, which is Apocalypse. I loved Apocalypse. I remember I watched Apocalypse in the theater twice. I loved it. I thought it was so good. It's not. It is not good. It's not a good movie. There are a few good moments. The Quicksilver scene's all right. There's probably other bits, but man, that is a bad movie. They do the whole fridging thing with Magneto's wife. I'm not here for that. That's incredibly dumb. The thing that gets me the most is that Apocalypse is supposed to be this world-ending threat, right? And he's supposed to be this guy that's looking for the strongest mutants possible. And that guy does not turn down a single mutant. Gets Angel. Don't get me wrong. I like Angel. But he's got wings, and that's it. Like, if you are looking for the strongest mutants in the world, it is so far from being Angel. I understand that Archangel is a comic book thing. I get that. But this version of Angel can do a punch, He can do a punch. Also, Psylocke, again, a character that is given zero introduction. She's just there, and Apocalypse is like, you'll do? Perfect. Why? For what reason? Based on what we know just from this movie, from context, she's got a laser sword. Not the most powerful mutant. I will give him Magneto. Solid call on Magneto. I'll even give him Storm, even though probably not. Just dumb that he goes with literally the first person he sees every time. I'll never understand it. Also, he looks bad, and I can't believe I'm saying that because I am very pro practical effects, but he's a little guy in those movies, and it makes me sad. He's supposed to be this big, strong, huge threat, Thanos type threat, and he's just a little guy, just a little fella. Anyway, bad movie. And then Dark Phoenix, another kind of shocker for me. I thought that was the worst X-Men movie. It's not. It is not the worst X-Men movie. It's okay. It's not good. It's not a good movie, but it's all right. The space thing at the beginning is kind of something. The aliens are dumb, but at least they are there. At least they make sense. At least they're consistent. It's all fine. That movie's fine. It's okay. Obviously, you have all these hilarious inconsistencies in terms of like what the lore is, what the timeline is. It makes no sense. It's never going to make sense. Is killing Mystique was dumb. It is dumb. This is my favorite thing about this movie is that they have a line about how the women are stronger than the men and it should be called X-Women. And then they kill 2/3 of the women on the X-Men team. So that's solid writing. Good job, Simon Kinberg. Just crushing it. Anyway, there is a point to all of this. I watched all these X-Men movies in the hopes of gaining more context for Deadpool and Wolverine. And I think I did, but not in the way that I was thinking. I was prepared to have more characters that I loved. Beast I do. I'll give you that. Beast I do love more than I ever did. But I was prepared to have more characters that I was excited to see show up and more people that I wanted to see this version of them. And I actually kind of got the opposite. The main thing that I took away from watching these movies is Deadpool and Wolverine can only do so much. It is one movie, and I think our expectations for that movie are getting way too high for what it's going to be able to do. There's people who are already saying that Tobey Maguire is coming back as Spider-Man. That's insanity. The fact that we get Wolverine in a costume should be enough for us. And the thing that I'm realizing is that people are expecting, and I was expecting, Deadpool and Wolverine to reach the highs of what I used to think the X-Men were. It's like I was expecting Deadpool and Wolverine to somehow attach the nostalgia that I had for the X-Men movies into a new thing. And I think we all need to pump the brakes a little bit because that's not going to happen because that's not physically possible. I don't think it's going to be a, hey, do you remember for the whole movie. In my heart of hearts, I hope that it's something more, that it's an MCU movie that actually has a point and a story and a character. I hope that we get a film out of this and not just a bunch of random characters popping up. So somehow my biggest takeaway from watching all the X-Men movies gearing up for Deadpool and Wolverine was maybe don't attach yourself too much to the X-Men movies when gearing up for Deadpool and Wolverine. I think we need to let this movie be what it is, and we need to take some expectations away from the film and just let it exist. And this is more for me, honestly, than it is for any of you. You can watch this with whatever lens you want. I just know that I need a reality check sometimes. I'm a huge proponent of watching a movie for what it is and not what I want it to be. And I don't think I was there with Deadpool and Wolverine. I think I wanted it to be a lot of things, and it just could never be those things. So this is my reality check. Maybe pump the brakes a little bit on Deadpool and Wolverine, and maybe just let it be what it is. Thank you for watching this video and checking out my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, comics, TV shows, X-Men, whatever, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below what you'd like me to review next. Or do none of those things because I am not your dad.